Welcome to the Becks, a podcast that explores multimedia horror with hosts Becky and Sydney. Join us as we talk about movies, books, video games, music, and much, much more.
Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sydney Rebecca.
And I'm Rebecca Snow.
And we're the Becks. What are we talking about, Becky?
Smile.
You make it sound so lovely. I don't like how you're smiling at me.
You know who has a crazy smile? Lauren, that we work with.
Oh, yeah.
She can do it perfectly.
She hasn't demonstrated it to me yet.
I will tell her to do it on Monday.
Okay, so this movie came out in 2022.
2022.
Well, the short film that was based on came out in 2020. That's why I was confused. The short film, Laura Hasn't Slept. Did you ever watch that?
Sounds really familiar, but I don't know if I have or not.
So
I think I did.
It was directed by Parker Finn, who does this movie, and I guess people liked it so much that he decided to turn it into a full-length film. And originally, it was set to only be released on Paramount Plus, but test screenings did so well that they decided to theatrically release it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. Because neither of us like this movie very much.
No, not really.
It's not that it's a bad movie. I just want to preface that by saying that. It's that it's too long, which is hilarious considering it's based on just a short film. I think that's just under 12 minutes. It's too long, and it's one of those that tries very hard to be atmospheric, but I don't think it is totally effective all the time. So it just is kind of boring.
Yeah, I found it boring. I was on my phone a lot, probably up and down doing other things while it was on, and it was creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole premise of the smile thing is someone's just standing there and they start smiling at you in a creepy way. Yeah, no, I don't like it.
It's a woman's biggest fear to be smiled at creepily. I'm just kidding.
But it's everybody's fear to be smiled at creepily.
Yeah.
You know, someone just looks at you from across the room.
I didn't really like the main actress either. So this movie centers around a therapist whose patient kills herself in front of her, and she starts to experience similar hallucinations as her patient was complaining of when she went insane and killed herself in front of her. If this bitch was my therapist, I would see her for one day, and that's it.
Really? Yeah, I know. She's horrible.
I didn't think she was good at her job.
Oh, well, no, she wasn't.
We see her interact with one of her frequent flyers, because she works at an emergency psychiatric hospital. So this guy comes in, and he frequently has episodes of mania and problems like that. And I just didn't like the way she handled him. I just found her to be condescending.
Yeah.
And not very genuine. She just wouldn't listen. Maybe her approach to therapy would work for other people, but I'm telling you right now, it wouldn't work for me because she pissed me off. It's not like I'm a therapist for people having... I'm not a therapist, period, but I'm also not an emergency therapist. So I don't know what it's like to be one.
You still have to have some kind of empathy towards your patients, I would think. I mean, you have to put yourself outside of that, obviously, because otherwise you're taking it home and you're internalizing it all. And so you obviously have to be a little bit more, I don't know if it's cold, not really the word I want to say, but you have to be more guarded because of that, I'm assuming. But you still have to have empathy for your patients. If you don't, I don't think you could ever be a good therapist. Being condescending and, I don't know, just kind of aloof it's not like, where you want to be.
I didn't think that she didn't care about her patients. I just felt that she just wasn't very good at her job, basically.
So some people are meant to be counselors and other people are meant not to be.
And I don't know if it was a writing issue or if it was an acting issue or if maybe it was both, but I didn't like her. And it's hard to get into a movie where you don't like the main character. The story has to also be good for me to be like, okay, I do dislike this character, but the story's good enough that I'm engaged, right? Yeah. And I don't want to dogpiling this movie because it isn't a terrible movie. It just wasn't for me. Again, I don't think the story was very good, and I don't think that not the directing necessarily, but it was just It was too fucking long. We've had this conversation. Horror movies need to be like 90 minutes. And if it is over that, it needs to have a reason for being that long.
How long was this one?
2 hours.
Yeah, that's a long time just for some weird, creepy people smiling at you.
Yeah, this movie I think would have been perfect if it had at least 20 minutes cut down out of it. Okay, so the main character, the therapist, her name is Rose, and she has a patient who comes in who is really unwell. This lady, she starred in the original short film.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that.
And she was an excellent actor. I was like, I wanted this to be the main character, which again is funny.
Yeah.
And Rose tries to talk her down, and she's not very successful.
No, I wouldn't say she was successful at all.
No. Well, I mean, yeah. So she starts freaking out that there's something in the room. She says it looks like people, but it isn't people. It just smiles. You just have the sense of foreboding like you're going to die, and then you die. You kill yourself. Specifically, you kill yourself in front of other people. Which this brings me to the biggest, I guess, I don't want to call it a plot hole necessarily, but if you know that you will continue this curse by killing yourself in front of another person, why would you just not kill yourself when you're alone? I mean, I know that sounds horrible, but hey, you have no choice. Seemingly. You are going to kill yourself horribly in front of another human, and it's going to pass it on. Go out into the middle of the woods and take care of it yourself, you know?
Well, you would think, but I think whatever's inside them forces them to do it in front of people.
But if you do it first, because these people are haunted for days.
This is true.
So if they're just, you know what, fuck you. I'm going to go drive off a bridge. No one's going to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would
you have to watch
end it.
the second one, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, with the information that was given to me,
Understood.
and you're like, okay, it's so hopeless, like terrible. This is gonna continue on the curse. Just take care of it.
Understood.
I guess that's me being kind of cynical though, because Rose has a lot of hope for trying to like finagle her way out of it. She does a lot of investigation. She has a police friend that helps her. She's ultimately unsuccessful. Spoiler. She really is fighting for her survival, which I respect. But
Yeah.
it's so obvious that was the solution. Like, obviously she didn't want to die, but it's one of those, why not try to mitigate it as much as possible? You're gonna die anyway. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway. Well, now we know how Sydney feels about it.
Yeah.
Go out in the middle of nowhere.
So Laura has like this fit and ends up slitting her own wrist. But first, it's like she gets possessed because she calms down, smiles at her, grabs a shard of pottery, and then slits her throat right in front of Rose. And that obviously fucks Rose up a bit. She has her own therapist in this movie. But they talk about how it's because of some childhood trauma. And she had stopped seeing her therapist. And I thought this was common knowledge. Most therapists have their own therapists.
Well, yeah, I think you would have to. I was going to school to be a therapist. And the reason I dropped out of school is because every one of my instructors that was a licensed therapist, they were either psychologists or psychiatrists. And they all were very, very odd. So I am assuming that they all had their own therapist. You have to. You're dealing with everybody's issues. Suicidal people, people that have probably hurt other people.
Or themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on there. I think that's probably why I didn't do it, because I'm an empath, so I take on all those feelings, and it was way too much for me. I would love to be a therapist and help people. That's what I've always wanted to do, but I would internalize it, and I don't think any amount of therapy would help me. I'm already screwed up enough.
Especially because the problem with any job or career or whatever is you're going to fail sometimes. And when it's other people on the line too, say you really have established a rapport with this patient of yours and they end up backsliding really bad and they kill themselves.
Yeah,
Like,
your screw up is
you knew that person. I mean, it's not, and I don't want to be like, oh, well, it's the therapist's fault that a person kills themselves. It's ultimately a very personal decision. But yeah, it's just, the emotional baggage that you get from that can't be overstated. And so the fact that Rose is so resistant to seeing her therapist is kind of a red flag for me. She's a deeply fucked up person who never heals from the trauma of her childhood, which we'll talk about in a second. And her work that she does, she definitely needs to have a therapist. Even if she wasn't a therapist, she needed to be in therapy, and she wasn't. Her job does make her take some time off after this happens because it's obviously very emotionally taxing. And
well, yeah, you can't watch someone do what she did in front of you and not be messed up.
She kind of chafes at that. I think she's a workaholic, which they established early on. When that new patient came in, she literally had worked the whole night shift, so she was there plus 12 hours, and she still didn't leave. And that's how she ended up seeing this lady do this. She was so close to missing it.
Yeah.
Would have been somebody else's purse if she had just left when she was supposed to.
Don't stay late.
So let this be a lesson. Don't be an overachiever. The next day, she does see her patient, Carl, the one that she initially wasn't very good with. And he smiles at her creepily and he tells her that she's gonna die. Which one of his, I don't know if it's like a tick or when he goes into his manic episodes, he's like, you're gonna die, she's gonna die, I'm gonna die, they're gonna die, whatever. So it wasn't outside the realm of things that he said, but it was usually people that he cared about. When he had the initial episode, he never said anything about her dying. Yeah. So we're also introduced to her fiance and her sister, her nephew, and her cat. Trigger warning, the cat dies. You don't see it happens off screen, but there's a very graphic scene where her nephew pulls out the cat's corpse out of his birthday present.
Horrible.
She's starting to hallucinate and stuff. Well, it's not a hallucination, to be fair. This is an actual thing that's happening, but no one else can see it. Only the victim can see it when it's happening.
Exactly. So people think that they are going insane.
Yeah.
Because they're hallucinating. They're acting like there's something in the room with them. They act crazy.
Yeah. And she's really worried about her cat when her cat goes missing. I guess my question is, was she made to kill her own cat, or did the demon kill her cat? Also, why would the demon kill her cat? That's another issue I have with this movie.
I'm pretty sure she killed the cat. Because of the hallucinations.
I just don't buy it, I guess. I know this is a weird line to draw, but I am sorry. We're not shown at any point that Rose loses time. Like how in some movies people are possessed or whatever, they lose time. There's no evidence of that happening. Why the cat? And also, to fuck with her, I understand, right? The demon or she, whatever, put the cat in a gift box and wrapped it up and gave it to her nephew. Why? What was the point of that? I guess
maybe
I'm just
it's to make everybody around her. I don't know.
Okay.
The whole thing is that, people around her are starting to see her, and no one wants to be around her. Nobody wants to, and it's freaking everybody out.
But doesn't that defeat the purpose
of it? Because it wants to spread?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, full disclosure, I'm just really pissed that the cat was killed.
I know that.
So maybe I'm being overcritical, but I'm a cat person, and I love my kitties. And, dude, I tell you what, I'm just so mad. It made me sick. The whole scene was awful. It was horrible.
It was. But yes, you're very angry because you are a cat person.
Poor mustache.
That's the first thing you do is you Google to see if the cat survives.
No, literally, as soon as the cat showed up on screen, I'm like, oh, fuck. And I went to doesthedogdie.com and I looked up Smile, and lo and behold.
You do that every movie you see a cat in that's going to be a scary movie.
We just went to the movies to see Nosferatu, and as soon as I saw the character had a cat, I'm right in the theater. I don't care who I disturbed, okay? I'm like, no, I need to know. Spoiler, the cat does not die in Nosferatu. You're welcome. So, her boyfriend, his name is Trevor. I don't feel like he was super supportive, but at the same...
Do you think? He was not.
I don't entirely blame him because he really thought she was losing it.
True.
But he called her therapist and they both ambushed her, which is not how interventions are supposed to happen. She was pissed and he was like, well, you were acting crazy. I don't want to marry you if you're crazy. Because he looked up to see if mental illness was genetic, which I think he's stupid because is that not common knowledge that mental illness is genetic? I thought it was. Maybe it's not.
I thought it was.
But he was like, yeah, I looked it up. And she's like, how dare you look it up? And it's like, why would you have to look it up? Because her mom, Rose's mom, was an addict. Very extreme addict. And she was very neglectful and said nasty things. And it's revealed that her mom was dying from an overdose, and Rose chose not to call 911, which that was a pretty fucked up scene. I mean, she was just a child when it happened. She was like, what, 12 or 13?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
She was young.
He was just like, I don't want to marry you if I'm marrying a crazy person, which, yeah, he was kind of a fucking asshole. By the way, it's the same actor who plays, you don't watch The Boys, do you?
No, I think I've only seen like 2 episodes.
Yeah, he plays the Speedy guy, the Flash ripoff from The Boys. He's a really good douchebag, apparently. Which I guess, So when the first initial person, the one who had the curse, killed herself in front of Rose, she was interviewed by the police about it. And it was, one of the police officers was like an old flame, and he stopped by the hospital the next day while she was working and was like, I just wanted to check on you. And she's like, don't do that. We're not friends. It was kind of, I don't know. Do you think it was inappropriate that he came and checked on her?
Well, I mean, depends on what their relationship really was. If they were just friends, if it had been years and years and years ago, I guess maybe not, but it was just my last ex.
Right.
And maybe that's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. I don't think the movie made it super clear. It was probably a throwaway line, like, oh, whatever. But she actually ends up going to him. The more she hallucinates and the more issues she has, and then when her therapist and her boyfriend ambush her and stuff like that, she feels like she has no one to turn to. She turns to him. She wants to know about the previous cases, which I don't think legally he can even discuss with her.
Kind of depends on if they're closed cases.
Which I guess...
Wouldn't that be like public record?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
As far as the cops are concerned, these have all been suicides.
Yeah.
So Rose and Joel continue to investigate this chain of suicides. Which the fact that no one else connected them before this point, because there were like 13 or 14 of them, I think, that they talked about. The fact that no one connected them in some meaningful way is really weird to me. I guess it's one of those things, unless you're looking for it, you won't see it.
Yeah.
But it's someone kills themselves in front of another person, and then that person kills themselves in front of another person, and then that's how the curse is passed on. They were only able to find one exception, and he was still alive. He was convicted for murder. So they go to the prison because Rose wants to talk to him and be like, how did you not kill yourself and continue the curse? And he reveals that he violently murdered someone in front of a witness, and the witness of that carried on the curse. And so he was able to avoid it. And he only tells her this because Rose says that someone she knows is under the curse. And then she hears this. Oh yeah, just brutally murder someone in front of someone else. He doesn't tell her to do that, to be fair. He doesn't tell anybody to do that. He's just like, that's what happened. That's how I got out of it. She's like, I can't kill somebody. And then he starts freaking the fuck out. He's like, you brought it here. Like, I'm gonna fucking die. I just escaped it, which I can't blame this guy for.
No, for sure.
Obviously, you shouldn't be a murderer, but... I mean, no, but. I don't know why I said but. You shouldn't murder. Let's not murder, kids. Rose runs out of the prison, and Joel, the police officer, the guy wouldn't talk with Joel in there because his cop senses were going off, even though he wasn't in uniform, So he didn't know what happened in the room, and Rose was just like, nothing. He was just crazy. She lied. Actually, at this point, her therapist shows up at her house. She goes back home, and her therapist shows up at her house, making an unannounced house call, and is like, I'm just so worried about you, blah, 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 whatever. Well, while she's talking to her therapist, her fucking therapist calls her phone to check on her. So then you're like, oh, that's not really her therapist. Very creepy scene. And the demon, I shouldn't call it a hallucination because it's not, tells her like, yeah, your time is running out. You're going to die soon. And Rose is very desperate. She actually grabs a knife and is gonna go into the hospital and kill somebody, I guess. This fucking pissed me off, okay? I was so mad at this because of all the people that you are like, oh, I'll murder this person. She goes to the patient, the original one.
Yeah.
Carl, who has never been violent to himself or others. And she's gonna murder him? What the fuck, bitch?
Yeah.
She sucks as a person.
She's desperate. Maybe she figures that no one will care if it's him.
A stranger! You could have no one you know. I'm not saying it's better to do that, but at the same time, she's literally gonna go to this person who is vulnerable and who trusts her and is gonna just fucking stab the shit out of him. Which she does. It turns out to be a hallucination. She, like, imagined it happen. Mm-hmm. But I was still like, dude, Carl, what the fuck?
Maybe he was a bad person. We just didn't know it.
Well, they could have told us in the movie.
You know, like Dexter, how he kills bad people.
Seriously.
Get rid of the bad people, then it's okay. I would think she would have picked someone other than her patient. That's kind of shitty. Again, bad therapist.
She's
She's not good at her job.
It's terrible. When she realizes what she's doing, she snaps out of it. And she drives back to her abandoned family home, and she's like, if I just die when I'm alone, the curse will break.
Which is exactly what Sydney said earlier. Just go alone.
But she was just waiting for the thing to kill her. Why not just take it into your own hands? I digress.
Yeah, you've never had a crazy demon.
This is true. I don't know what it's like. Yeah. I can't relate, you know? So... The entity, and this is when it got interesting to me. This is when it took more of a psychological turn. It was a little hokey, but
yeah,
it was interesting at the same time. The entity turned into her dead mother and was exploiting that trauma. And that whole scene was actually really good, I felt. Like the things
that was pretty intense.
The things that the mother creature was saying, and it was just kind of fucked up, and it was interesting. That was when I was like the most interested in the movie, was this scene. I was like, okay, this payoff is going to be really good. Well, Joel hasn't heard from Rose in a while. That's the cop. And he's worried, and he somehow finds out that she's at her old abandoned house. Hand-wavy plot reasons, I'm assuming. Like, I don't know how he found her. Did he track her phone?
Yes.
Okay.
He tracked her phone to her old house.
He's not even on duty.
He loves her.
Oh, whatever.
He probably put a tracker on her phone.
That's creepy.
You know, some people all do that. Families and friends do that to each other all the time.
Oh, the Life 360 or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, she should have uninstalled it, apparently. She wanted to be effective at it. Before he gets there, she thinks that she kills it. She has a fucking lantern that somehow still has kerosene in it after fucking 40 years or whatever. She lights it on fire and she thinks she kills it. She doesn't. Spoiler, that was a hallucination too. And then Joel shows up and she's freaking out because she's like, you're not supposed to fucking be here, you idiot. Which is true.
Well, yeah, she's trying to end it. She's trying to fix it. And here he comes to save the day, but not really.
Yeah, because what the fuck
throws a wrench into the plan.
What is he going to do?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Is he going to shoot it? He can't see it. She gets possessed. It crawls through her mouth, which is fucking creepy. That was horrible. Like, it wrenches her mouth open and crawls into her.
Uh-huh.
And she lights herself on fire in front of him, which I feel like is not violent enough, personally. I mean, I've never had a person burn alive in front of me, but...
I'm thinking that's pretty violent.
Comparatively, though, someone slitting their throat in front of you.
No, someone lighting on fire.
It's not like she screams or anything. She just stands there and is burning.
I understand that, but the pain from burns, that's no.
She's not screaming.
Well, she might not be screaming because I don't know, but I'm telling you, someone burning to death is no. That's horrible.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not horrible. I'm just saying that I think it has to be kind of subjective, because to me, someone... No. I've never had anybody...
No, if someone that no. Granted, she didn't react for whatever weird reason from the possession or whatever it was, but to watch someone burn alive, unless they're one of the monks that lights themselves on fire and sits there all quiet... No, I don't know. Bad. Listen to me. The whole thought of it just freaks me out.
It is horrifying, for sure. I just think that the method of suicide, it's subjectively different. It would be subjectively... I don't know.
Maybe she thought if she burned herself, it would destroy the entity because it was within her.
Well, no, but she was possessed when she burned herself. She literally doused herself.
Maybe there was enough brains in her head still. Maybe she was fighting the demon and thought, if I do this, it will destroy the demon because it's in me.
See, this is the thing that I'm
know.
confused about is because I don't know, for some reason I guess I thought like as soon as they were possessed by the smile demon, they died. I'm not explaining it right.
Who they were was gone.
Yeah.
Because the demon was there.
Yeah. So I don't know. So that's how the movie ends. Curse gets passed on. But my biggest question is, why did it have to kill the cat?
That's all she cares about. All the dead people don't matter.
That cat didn't do nothing to nobody. She was at least a shitty therapist.
Well, yeah, she was.
So, people loved this movie. I really thought it was going to be super scary.
Yeah, no, it's not scary. It's creepy. The smiles are creepy. That's all. And the second one, we may talk about, that's creepy too in some instances, but again, it's not terrifying.
The premise of this reminded me of a creepypasta that I read way back in the day. I don't remember what it was called. It was like The Smiling Man or something. You remember when we did the short video story?
Yeah.
Short horse. And it was like The Smiling Man or whatever. And I was like, oh, is it this? And you're like, no, it's something different. I remember reading it and it was really creepy. And it was just this person who was walking home. And they were on one side of the street and they saw someone on the other side of the street walking towards them.
Yeah.
And they were walking weird. So it was eye-catching. And it was kind of unsettling for this person because it was late and it was time. And then the person on the other side of the street looks up and smiles at them. But it's like a fucked up, weird, like too wide smile. Like it's not a happy smile. It's weird. And then it starts moving towards him. This person starts moving towards him. It's just a really creepy,
it is super creepy, yeah.
Story. And they've made it into like a short horror video before. But I remember initially when I just read it, I was so creeped out. So I was really hoping to have those vibes going into this movie. And again, this movie was successful enough that it prompted a sequel to be made, which people have been talking about like crazy. So I expected it to be better than it was.
It is not a movie that I want to watch again and again.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
No, it doesn't have a lot of rewatchability in my opinion.
No, it's not like you're going to watch it and find things that you didn't see to begin with.
Right.
It's all kind of just...
I guess maybe you could, like, people smiling creepily in the background or whatever,
yeah,
for different scenes, but yeah, that's Smile.
That is Smile.
What did y'all think of it? Did you like it? We're gonna watch the sequel and talk about that.
I have watched the sequel.
I have not.
She has not. But she will, and then we'll talk about that.
As much as people like the first one, people have been talking about the second one like crazy recently, so not recently, but...
There's one scene in the second one, we'll talk about it once you watch it, that freaks me right out. It's just one scene. And you'll know why when you see it. Yeah, I didn't enjoy that part.
We'll talk about Alien Romulus next time. So be looking out for that one.
Which Sydney loved, but said is too long.
I also feel like it was a little too long. Like, they could have cut at least
yeah,
20
there's some things they could have cut out of there that were unnecessary.
This is the thing, and it's not... I don't want every movie to be just a fun 90-minute romp. I do feel like sometimes a longer runtime is okay. Well, we'll talk about Alien Romulus specifically later, but sometimes you just need to end the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you've said what you need to say. With the context of Smile being based on a short film that was, again, just under 12 minutes, it makes so much sense that I felt like it was too long.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. How do you take a 12-minute short film and make it into a 2-hour film?
Yeah.
That's a lot to put into it, to add to it.
And again, I found portions of it to be interesting. I think if Rose, for example, if she had had a history of hallucinations or something because of the trauma she faced growing up, so that way she literally has a hard time deciding whether it's really a hallucination or if it's real, like, that would have made it so much more interesting.
Yeah, they could have added more to it to make it more interesting.
Like, if she had a history of mental illness that's related to hallucinations or something, that really could have popped off. So that's it. Let's Smile. Let us know what you thought.
Still waiting for some listener stories. Hello, people. I know we don't have a ton of listeners, but somebody's got to have a creepy story.
Yeah.
I'm going to call Dawn out. Dawn has to have one somewhere.
Dawn, you work at a museum after hours. There has to be creepy shit that happens.
Come on, Dawn. Give us something creepy.
Give us an email, Dawn. Please.
I'm totally calling out our super fan that we love to death.
Yeah, that's us. That's it. Today the pod, tomorrow the world. My name is Sydney Rebecca.
And I'm Rebecca Snow.
And we're the Becks.